For Voices of Reason, I'm Steve Ulrich. One of the most watched races in the Pennsylvania primary on May 20th is that for the Democratic nomination for district attorney in the city of Philadelphia. Incumbent Larry Krasner goes for his third term against Pat Dugan, who was elected president judge of the Philadelphia Municipal Court in 2019. We'll talk to Mr. Dugan today on Voices of Reason. Today on Voices of Reason, we're joined by the Democratic candidate for district attorney in the city of Philadelphia, Judge Pat Dugan. Judge Dugan, thanks so much for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Elected president judge of the Philadelphia Municipal Court in 2019, you resigned to run for district attorney. For those who are just outside the city of Philadelphia and maybe watching us, can you give us a little more in your background?
Sure. I'm a lifelong Philadelphian. Was born in Fairmount in the neighborhood, and then we moved up to a place called Frankfort. If anybody's familiar with the city, I lived near the Margaret Orthodox L stop as a kid. Grew up in the neighborhood, playing all kinds of sports on the street. Played some organized baseball, basketball, and football. I went to St. Joe's Prep on what's called a merit need scholarship. So I scored well on a test. The nun actually forced me to take the test. She paid the $10 test fee, and I scored high enough that St. Joe's Prep offered me a scholarship through Geno's, and it was $75 for me to go to the prep. North Catholic would have cost us $300. My mother was a single mother with 5 kids. Mom said, "You're going to the prep," so I did. I could tell you that my mother's my hero. When we were living in Fairmount, it was in the 1960s, a lot of racial tension going on. And a young teenager was riding his bike past our neighborhood, past our home very quickly. And we're sitting on the steps. I'm 6 or 7. And he's being chased by a bunch of old heads in the neighborhood, older teenagers. And they caught him, and they started to beat him with a board, one of those yellow boards from the police barricades. My mother jumped off the steps, ran down, got between those older teenagers and this young kid, and protected him from that board, pushed those older teenagers away, brought that kid to our step, and kept him there with his bike until the police arrived. So basically, I'm telling that story because my mother is my hero. She didn't have to tell me what to do. She showed me what to do. Get up when there's danger, when somebody needs help. So after I graduated from the prep, I went to St. Joe's University for a minute. College didn't suit me at the time, so I wound up going in the Army. I was in the Airborne Infantry 6 years. I was in the 82nd Airborne in a recon platoon. I was in Panama for 2 years. I was on a DMZ in South Korea for a year. I went to college every base I was stationed at. By the time I got out in 1989, I was about a year short of a college degree. Used my veterans benefits and worked as a bartender to finish college. And I applied to law school. I went to law school at 30 years old. And, I became a lawyer. I was a child advocate mostly and a criminal defense attorney. Was doing that kind of practice. I was involved in politics with city council, worked there, Philadelphia City Council. And 9/11 broke out. And I went back in the Army after a 14-year break in service. I wound up being a 44-year-old, slightly overweight, out of shape sergeant in Mosul, Iraq. And because I had a law degree, I wound up being assigned to basically like the State Department. I was in civilian clothes, and I did a lot of stuff in Mosul. I taught democracy classes. I actually rode a machine gun on many a mission with civil affairs, but I also started the first ever, that's what people claim, women's empowerment group because we had access to money. And so I helped these ladies buy these modern sewing machines so they could have a business. Now, one of the little secrets in a place like Iraq is that, yes, folks can have quite a few wives, but sometimes truly having another wife is you're getting rid of the other one. You're divorcing her. You're putting her down a little bit. So they needed some help, surviving. So that was one of the goals that we had while we were there. So I did things like that while I was in Iraq, including a toy vitamin, and pencil drive. I sent home a email asking people to send me some soccer balls and pencils and prenatal vitamins, and got in the Daily News. Somebody sent it to a reporter, went viral, and I got thousands of packages to hand out to kids and schools and hospitals. So they're the kind of things I was doing in the Army. I came home from there and I deployed to Afghanistan. When I came home from Afghanistan, Governor Rendell called me up and said, I'm going to nominate you to be a judge. So in 2007, I became a judge. I love being a judge. I was a judge for 17 years.
Well, let me ask then, after 17 years on the court, what made you decide that now is the time to run for district attorney?
Well, much like my mother, who got off the step, one of the reasons why after 9/11, I got off the couch to go back in the Army to help those young people that were going overseas. This is me getting off the bench, like my mother did, getting off the step to help the city of Philadelphia, because right now we're not safer. What I saw on the bench every day for the last 7 years, while the current district attorney was in charge of the district attorney's office, was just mind numbing. It just doesn't make sense. So I saw an effective office with many effective, well meaning, well trained assistant district attorneys appear in front of me, where there was a balance between the defense and the prosecutor. So we come in, it was an adversarial hearing, respectful, and then the judges would make the decision. And in the last 7 years, what it's been so one sided, because basically the district attorney's office is nothing but the public defender on steroids. The withdrawal rate was over 70% in my courtroom. Victims not being contacted. It was just amazing that they could be that ineffective that they don't even know how to call a witness. Now, there's always been 30, 40, 50% witnesses not showing, victims not showing, but to get it up that high, you have to work hard that these people don't come. In fact, many murder victims, their family members have come out publicly, and they don't understand why. They read about the outcome of the case of the person who murdered their loved one. They read it in the paper instead of that family being in the courtroom, which they have every right to do. In fact, there's a Bill of Rights for victims that Larry has ignored. You would think the guy who goes around as the most progressive DA, you think he would have some compassion and empathy for the victims. He has compassion and empathy for criminals, not for the victims. This is not just what I've seen. This is what these families have come out publicly to say. It just doesn't make sense to me. I saw how he's ruined businesses in the city of Philadelphia by, after 1 month on the job, unilaterally changed the retail theft policy in the city of Philadelphia. Now, as the DA, you have a wide range of discretion. He took the retail theft statute and pretty much threw it out, made everything a ticketable offense, a summary offense, but in reality, it was a freebie. So from February of 2018, which just prior to that, we had 7,200 retail theft incidents just before Larry took office, with a 23% arrest rate, which is pretty bad in itself. Last year, we had over 22,000 retail thefts with a 2% arrest rate. That means all the other retail thefts, nothing ever happened to the people. And out of those 2% that were arrested, I'm not sure more than a dozen ever really reached the end of a case. So, in effect, Larry had said, it's okay to steal, it's free, it's on me. Wawa invested $100 million in Center City, 9 stores. They're all gone. Macy's is gone. They had a security guard who was killed, but they also had thousands of retail theft incidents. I don't want to hear about it's the internet and Amazon. One of the biggest factors in that store closing was the policy coming out of Larry's office. CVS's, Rite Aid's, they got a foot and a half out the door. They're on their way out of here. All you got to do is walk in and you can see it. Pharmacies can't stay open. the mom and pop stores, they can't afford to have somebody steal a bag of chips and a soda, let alone $499. It doesn't make sense to me that we would allow people to do this. There's always an exception, right? The lady who's stealing formula for her baby or diapers for her baby, we can work with her. We really can. But these folks are going in and stealing toothpaste and deodorant and soap powder to sell it on a corner. We can't allow them to continue to do that. It's just destroying our tax base. It's enabling people to just believe they can get away with whatever they want. I mean, the prosecutor's job is to make the city safer. We can also do a lot of these diversion and restorative justice programs. I believe in that. I did that as a judge for 17 years. I ran a nationally acclaimed veterans court where our recidivism rate was less than 10%. So only 10% of those folks came back with a criminal matter later on. The rest of them, they moved on and are good citizens because we helped them get their benefits from the VA. We helped them get mental health. We helped them get a job. We helped them with substance abuse. We took them to equine therapy. We just did so much, made them feel wanted. We had a good mentorship program. So we expanded this idea. Well, this idea actually came from drug treatment court, which is the model around the country. So these are the type of things that we were doing in court. Larry took over as the DA. Seth Williams, for all that people can say about his failings on personal level, he ran a pretty good office because he did what we can do. He walked and chewed gum at the same time. You can do these diversion programs with restorative, rehabilitative justice, and at the same time, these criminals running around with guns can be held accountable. Larry has not done that. The gun conviction rate is through the toilet. It's amazing. 79% of carjackings go completely unpunished. They never see a daylight. They never see a hearing in the courthouse. And those other 21% that move on, the vast majority of them, the people are found not guilty because of the incompetence and untraining of his office.
Could you talk to me a little bit about your plans for what you'd like to do as district attorney? I know one of the things you had talked about was a geographical prosecution
Yes,
plan. Could you explain a little bit what you mean by that?
I sure can. So again, I'll go back to Seth Williams. Seth Williams had a policy where he had attorneys assigned throughout the city. So the city is basically divided. We have all these police districts, but the bigger one of that is police divisions. So he would assign a senior assistant district attorney to each one of those police divisions. And that attorney was responsible to liaison with the community, with the police, with the police advisory board, with the citizens, go to all these community meetings so that Mary Jones, who lives at 54th Street, could come and tell the DA, "Hey, on the corner at 54th and Market, there's these kids that are hanging there harassing us all the time. So we need to look into that. We have these nuisance bars, these nuisance stores. Oh, by the way, this gang is causing all kinds of problem in our neighborhood." There's a direct communication with the citizens, and oh, Mary, who lives down the street from me, she doesn't know when her court date is. Can you help us with that? Sure, I can. So they would communicate directly. So the day Larry took office, he yanked the chain and brought all those people, if he didn't fire some of them, but he brought them all back into the office and he stopped this geographic um, prosecution, but it was more a liaison. And he stopped doing that. For what reason? The only thing I could think of, because Larry's a pretty smart man, I really think he's looking for that there's a disconnect because he really doesn't want to prosecute. So, but I want to bring back that type of office with the district attorney. I also want to bring back integrity into the district attorney's office. Recently, a common pleas judge scolded the district attorney in his office with a $120,000 fine for withholding 3 boxes of evidence on one of these conviction integrities that he brags about. Well, you got to use integrity when you do these. So that judge found that one of his head supervisors, his one of his shining stars, basically lied in court, committed perjury. Um, the shining star of the Conviction Integrity Unit, a woman by the name of Patricia Cummings, who's since left the office, she told the lawyers she wasn't going to honor a subpoena because she would plead the fifth if she came to court. That judge ordered every single DA in Philadelphia District Attorney's Office to take a ethics course on candor to the court supervised by the disciplinary board. Every single attorney. This is unheard of. So, yeah, the geographic prosecution, I want to bring back integrity. The day I take office, every single attorney is going to meet me in that in their main meeting room, and we're going to raise our right hand and we're going to swear that oath again. And I'm going to reiterate to them that it's their oath, it's their reputation, so they need to start living by it, not what some ideologue is going to tell you to do. It's not his oath, it's your oath. So these are a couple of the things that I want to do. And I could continue to expound. I'm sure you have some more questions.
Well, I wanted to ask you about, you talk about expanding resources for diversionary programs, perhaps doing some job training within the city. Could you expound a little bit on that?
Yeah, so in municipal court, we've had some great success through Veterans Court. We had a program for ladies who were trapped in the sex world. We had a program for Johns, those clowns who go solicit from people who are addicted to drugs. We used to make those people come in on a Saturday morning, watch a 3 hour video, which actually showed these men and women that they were actually somebody's sister, somebody's daughter, somebody's cousin. They're in need, they need help. So we would embarrass them and educate them, charge them 250 bucks. Those men didn't come back with the same type of crimes anymore. So these little things that we could do, they work. We have a program called Alternative Misdemeanor Program, and it's in the neighborhoods, in particular in Kensington, that for years have been up there with a mental health specialist, a nurse, social workers, people who are helping those people in the throes of addiction who are committing misdemeanors. That was a very successful program prior to Larry. After Larry came on board, he didn't support the program, so that kind of went down. Recently, the mayor and Commissioner Bethel, God bless them both, because they came in with let's make the city safer by actually prosecuting some crimes. Larry's not agreeing to that. But thankfully, their strategies are making a little bit of a dent in the city with some of the numbers. But one of them was this wellness court that they started, that in theory is awesome, but it's really not working very well because the chief law enforcement officer of the city of Philadelphia, the district attorney, does not cooperate. That's very public. It's been published. In fact, Larry, at a recent debate with me, said, I don't work for the mayor. I'm not going to cooperate with the director of public safety because he doesn't like the guy. So he's not cooperating because he doesn't play well in the sandbox and he's hurting our citizens. I will collaborate with the commissioner, with the director of public safety, and the mayor and the community because we have to listen to the community in order to help our community. And Larry he's the smartest person in every room he goes in. He walked out of the District Attorneys Association of Pennsylvania. Every other county has they're members of the District Attorneys Association. So they get together, they talk about what can we do to make things better, good ideas, bad ideas. Larry did not want to be part of that group. He should have went there, he should have stayed a member, and he should have tried to convince them to come more his way instead of taking his ball and running away with it. We got to collaborate. I'm never the smartest person in a room. I want to surround myself with good people. We sit around. I don't need yes men and yes women. I want people with ideas that we can go back and forth and then come up with the best solution. And that man does not do it. And all you got to do is sit down, 20-minute conversation, and it's pretty obvious.
Your opponent was kind of swept in 8 years ago on a wave of progressivism, I guess is the best way to describe it. And you've seen that happen in the western part of the state with Ed Gainey being brought in as mayor, but it seems as though some of these races, whether it's that mayoral race or your DA contest, is really a test of whether progressive politics can continue in a city like Philadelphia, the sixth largest city in the country. Is that a fair characterization?
I think it is. And people like Larry have given the progressive movement a bad name. He's not progressive. He's anti-prosecution. And that just doesn't make sense with me because there are some good ideas on the left with the progressives. There are good ideas on the right. We have to come together and figure this out. Larry is an ideologue. Larry thinks that he's running against Donald Trump. That's his biggest campaign, is that he's running against Donald Trump. F around and find out, Donald Trump. Now, I say, yeah, I agree with you, Larry. Let's talk about Donald Trump, get him out of here. But in reality, you need to focus on F around and find out. You guys running around the streets of Philadelphia with guns, shooting our innocent civilians. Those are the people that we need to focus on more than rhetoric about Donald Trump and getting clicks and raising money off of Donald Trump. It's Larry versus Pat. That's the clear choice in the city of Philadelphia right now. And I want my tent to expand. I want people who want to help the city vote for Pat Dugan on May 20th so that we can have a different, safer direction for the city.
I've read that homicides are down across the city, yet the police union has not come out and made an endorsement. You've picked up an endorsement from the Trades Council. How important is that endorsement? And do you believe that perhaps you can get the police to join your fight in this race?
So, okay, the murder rate's down, so Larry wants to take credit for that. The problem I have with that is the strategies by the police department and the mayor, I believe, had a bigger impact on that. If you're going to try to take credit for the murder rate going down right now, then you need to take credit for the spike in murders in the 7 years that he was in office. Over 3,000 murders have occurred. Over 10,000 people have been shot, not shot at, shot. 3,000 KIAs and 10,000 MIAs. That rivals our time over in Afghanistan. It's ludicrous that that's happened in our city. The University of Pennsylvania Law School, the School of Law, Cary Law School, and I would say, Penn, is that left or right? Larry's going to, oh my God, they hate me. Penn, University of Pennsylvania, that's left leaning. There was a study there by a couple professors that actually put 75 extra murders a year at the foot of Larry Krasner because of his prosecution. Because when he has somebody that he should lock up and keep them in jail, he doesn't do that. There was one gentleman who had a carjacking, put a gun to the Uber driver's head, stole the car. The guy wound up having about $2,000 bail. And while he was out on bail, he killed a man in Brewery Town, a 25-year-old man who was walking his dog. That guy did not deserve to be out. He had a previous gun violation as well. Now, everybody says, okay, it was the judge who made the bail decision. I don't know whether Larry's office asked for a higher bail, but if that judge gave a low bail, they can appeal it. It can be appealed all the way up to the Supreme Court. Larry almost never, ever, ever appeals a bail hearing. All he does is point fingers at people. And this study, again, a left leaning study, put 75 murders a year. When you add them up, we're talking over 500 murders. That is astounding that we would continue to even think that this man should continue to be the district attorney of anything. He shouldn't be the damn dog catcher, to be honest with you.
You're out with your first television ad. You read newspapers, you hear Larry Krasner's name a lot, and oftentimes it's not said in a positive light. Do you think there's a Krasner fatigue around the city right now?
Well, you have worded it properly. everywhere I go. So, I go in where I live, the Northeast, they've been tired of him for years. But I am going into the entire city. I'm going into his strongholds. I'm going into the African American wards where everybody says, oh, we're going to vote for Larry. Well, I am turning the people that are hearing my message. They're coming with me. I'm going into these far, let's just say, very liberal wards, mostly Center City. I'm going in there and I am bringing them to Pat Dugan's table. I recently got the 8th Ward, which is in Center City. They've been backing Larry for 7.5 years. They are now with me. It's the biggest vote producer in the city, but they have fatigue. The first 2 words that I've heard from probably about 60% of the people, I go shake hands and say, hey, I'm Pat Dugan. I'm running for DA. The first 2 words that I hear from people, well, the second word is Krasner. The first one begins with an F, and I'm certainly not going to put that out there. I'm not
Thank
going to
you.
say that word, but these are the things that people, and it doesn't matter. I mean, so I'm a judge for 17 years. You think people would be a little hesitant to say that to me? No, I'm getting that from people in suits. I'm getting that from regular people. It's just amazing. White, black, it doesn't matter. Young, old, they're using that expression to me. They're definitely tired of it, and they need a choice other than Krasner, and I think they got it this time. I converted a, I converted half the room. The very first forum we had, it was out at 57th and Catherine, and it was basically a program that was set up by all Larry supporters,
Mhm.
Reclaim and Amnesty and whatnot. And I went out there, and people said, "Why are you going out there?" I said, "Because I want voters. I want people to hear my message." They did a poll before we started with the phones, and it was 38-3, Larry. I'm done. Like, why am I even doing this? After we had an hour debate, they did a poll again. It was 30 for Larry, 18 for me. I didn't win the room, but I took away and I got the undecided. And if I can do that, my base is going to come out. I can do that. I can chip away at his. I went into a black church. Minister came up to me and said, Judge, I got to tell you, I'm with Mr. Krasner. I've been with him for 7 years. I said, just keep an open mind. I appreciate it. It's democracy, Reverend. We had a debate in his church. At the end of the debate, he come over, shook my hand, and said, Judge, I'm with you. Come back for first Sunday to their Baptist church, Mount Carmel. And I did. They brought me back. So as people hear a message, yes, they're fatigued. They know they have another solution, and it's me. So yes, I can feel it on the street.
We're talking to Pat Dugan, Democratic candidate for district attorney in the city of Philadelphia. We'll get you out of here with a couple more hard-hitting questions, Mr.
Sure.
Dugan. Where's your favorite cheesesteak place or places in Philadelphia, and how do you like your cheesesteak?
So my favorite cheesesteak is one that's fresh. I mean, I have so many favorite cheesesteak places, but I can tell you that Um, I like Jim's Steaks at 4th and South. And I also like, here's one that people haven't heard about, at Dagwood's, at Linden and Tarsdale, the chef in there, Jack McPeak, fantastic steak. So I like it with a regular roll. I prefer the old Amarosas. I'm not sure they're even around anymore, but I like those, no seeds. And I like whiz without.
Second hard-hitting question, where were you stationed during the Eagles Super Bowl parade?
So both parades, I was in Minnesota when they won the first Super Bowl. My wife gave me permission to hit our retirement fund up to go. Those tickets were too expensive, but we didn't get to. She said, you just go because you've been a diehard since birth. I was 7 rows up when Nick Foles caught that touchdown pass. If he'd have kept coming into the stands, he could have jumped up and I'd have been able to catch him. So I was at the game. And I was sad because I missed the parade because of my family and whatnot. Um, for the for the second Super Bowl, my wife planned a trip to Disney with all of our grandchildren. We watched the Super Bowl in a home with all my grandchildren. Well, not all of them. We had 9 grandchildren with us in Disney and watched the game together, which was unbelievable. We didn't make the parade in Philly, but we made the Disney parade. We were in Disney when uh, Jalen Hurts was riding the Disney vehicle, and we stood there. We had a great spot. He talked for a couple minutes, and we were right there. My grandkids were chanting MVP. So I missed both parades in Philly, but they were both worth it.
Oh, and we'll end on this one. I won't ask you for a go Birds cheer, but I will give you the opportunity to tell me your least favorite NFL team.
The Dallas Cowboys, I hate them.
I
I
had a,
hate them.
I had a feeling that was the answer. I just wanted to see the expression that went along with
Oh,
it.
and I train my grandkids to feel the same way. I mean, we shouldn't spread hate except when it comes to the Cowboys. Everything else, no, we got to love each other, absolutely. But the Cowboys, nah, that's a no brainer.
Education is an important thing. Our thanks to Pat Dugan, who's a candidate for district attorney on the Democratic side for the city of Philadelphia. Judge Dugan, thanks so much for joining us today on Voices of Reason.
Thank you for having me.